Well, hello, and welcome to another one of my videos, book review number 56. I have a couple hundred videos posted on YouTube, and I've read a couple hundred books and hundreds of magazines, 1,000 videos, thousands of press releases. My name is Rick Marico. I've been doing these book reviews in an attempt to figure out what the heck is going on planet Earth. Specifically, the economic destruction, the wars, the deception, the propaganda, the efforts to try to remove the guns from the people, to change our society. It was a press release today in the news. It said that America is speeding towards a secular society, and religion is given the boot. Goodbye religion, goodbye Jesus, goodbye everything, and hello decadent chaos and anarchy. That's what the people who are ruling our planet, who control the movie theaters, the TV shows, the newspapers, the politicians, the banks. That's where they're taking us. So this video here is going to be about a book, The Lost Star and the Myth and Time. Lost Star of Myth and Time. So if you can hang in there with me, this ought to be very interesting. It took me a week or two to ponder exactly how I was going to try to talk about this book. We know, most people know, that from doing a little researchers, that the government has been doing some crazy things. One is building underground cities with tunnels in secret, keeping it from the public. They have big machines like this that can drill underground tunnels. And a lot of people know, who are researchers, that the banksters, the CEOs, generally speaking, of lots of corporations, are Jewish folks, Zionist Jewish folks. Not that all Jewish folks are in on the one world order and a one world religion, and apparently it's a Luciferic religion. But Fritz Springmeier did this book, Bloodlines of the Illuminati. And then all the names are in here. We got the Russell family, you got the Rothschild family. Well, the Rothschild family encompasses a lot of pages. Look at the symbols. Six-pointed star, the snake eating its tail. The witchcraft symbol, right there, with the five-pointed star, Lucifer, with the circle around it, the altar. The snake going up the pole. Anyways, this is Fritz Springmeier's book. And of course it's got the Rockefellers in here, the Kennedys, the Collins, Bundys, Astor. You can get this book, it's a good read. So they're building tunnels. You got a Jewish PhD author in Canada writing this book, Illuminati, the Cult That Hijacked the World. You got the government building all these HARP transmitters all over the world. These are videos that we've done in the past, and you got 1983, 1984, hundreds and hundreds of UFO sightings all over Connecticut, upper New York. The size of football fields hovering in the air. We did the book review on this. The Philadelphia experiment and other UFO conspiracies. Basically what they did with the Philadelphia experiment, you can go watch the movie on YouTube or find it. But they put microwave transmitters all over a battleship and turned it on, and the ship disappeared with all that energy. And it reappeared a couple hundred miles up the waterway. And some of the people were inside the bulkhead and some were outside the bulkhead. So it dematerialized the ship, it reappeared, and it upset a lot of things. Things you don't know. And we did this video, book review, Carl Brugger, where he went down to Ecuador, Brazil, Venezuela, off into the jungles and met the tribe and learned their history. And they lived in underground caves, and apparently during the last catastrophe on Earth, you know, the floods and the upheavals, a pole shift, whatever you want to call it, they talked about aliens or beings from elsewhere coming to help and save them. And we got Eric Van Daniken going down there to Ecuador and meeting up with a priest there who had discovered a lot of things inside of the mountain caves. Look at that. That's like on the dollar bill. So we're talking the Illuminati. We're talking Egyptian ancient religion. The serious mystery. We went over this book with Temple, where he discovered in Africa the tribes, see the dog star, that they knew about the celestial stars that, of course, they couldn't see them way back then in ancient times. But apparently they knew all about that stuff, and apparently beings from outside the planet met up with these Africans and got involved in their ancient history like they did in South America. And then Whitley Strieber, his involvement in meeting with seeing UFOs and alien sightings. So the bottom line is something's up. So this book here might help us try to connect some of the dots. I'll read the back of it a little bit. Ancient folklore from around the world rings with two resonating themes. History moves in cycles, with alternating golden and dark ages, and the slow movement of the stars across the sky, the precession of the equinox, is the cause and timekeeper of these cycles. So they say that we have a golden age, and then it descends into a dark age, and then it ascends back to the golden age. And in Earth's history, mankind's history, this has happened a few times. So here's a little chart that kind of shows the picture of it. So apparently we're here now in the Bronze Age. We went through the Dark Ages here. And if you go, and then so we're about here now. And we're ascending, so we're in the bronze, and there's supposedly we'll wind up in the silver, and then we wind up in the golden age. And as I like to say, golden for whom? You know, when the pharaohs were in Egypt, or Caesar was in Rome, and the emperors were ruling the world, even in the Orient, India and China. It was a golden age for the emperors and the pharaohs and the Caesars. But how was it for the little people, the middle class? And now we know, if anybody's been paying attention, that the economic destruction in the USA and the world has been going on. And the 1%, less than 1% of the people of the world own most everything. And the middle class is disappearing in the USA. And I suspect in other places in Europe, where behind the scenes in secret they created the European Union, which I feel sorry for all those countries that have lost all their freedoms and now don't even rule their own countries. So what does all that have to do with the lost star of myth and time is the question. For years we have heard that these are only myths, and there was no golden age and precession. Is just a wobbling of Earth's axis. Now lost star of myth and time shows evidence of the ancients were not just weaving fanciful tales. Science is on the verge of an amazing discovery. Our sun has a companion star carrying us through a great cycle of stellar influences. If true, it means the ancients were right, and our views of space and time and history of civilization will never be the same. More than that, it would mean that we are now at the dawn of a new age in human development and world conditions. You know, I was looking at we got a lot to talk about with this book, but there's a lot of press releases and websites you can look up. The sun and solar symbols in myth, logs, music, videos, lyrics, and movies. Some pictures here that are interesting. Of course, you know, you have the sun. And what if God were the sun? And we know a lot of the religions worship the sun. And even here, the ancient Mayans would sacrifice somebody to the sun. And then you have Lucifer, the secret history of Lucifer, and the meaning of the true Da Vinci Code. Napoleon said, if I had to choose a religion, the sun as a universal giver of life would be my God. God is a consuming fire, Hebrews 12:29 in the Bible. With noble passion, sun-souled Lucifer swept through the dawn colossal. Aleister Crowley, hymn to Lucifer. Aleister Crowley was the evilest man alive, claimed to have killed a lot of children. And inside in New York City, they were doing decadent sexual orgies in order to invoke some kind of satanic entities or whatever. And then another thing on this document, there has to be an invisible sun. It gives its heat to everyone. Sting and Police, Invisible Sun from the album Ghost in the Machine. So look up this document and read it. I'm going to reference it a few times with this book. Another one here I noticed was this one here, was Tricked by the Light. How souls are programmed to go to the moon, sun, at death to be recycled as energy. Look up this website. New Theory of Life and Death. How to Win the Game of Life and Escape the Prison Planet Earth, which is a matrix illusion that we dream, by Wayne Bush. And as you can see, we have Mickey Mouse here with his magic wand. This is a witchcraft symbol here. The shell gas has the sun's rays. The moon and the sun, when they eclipse, are the exact same size. The sun, and then the religion. These days, the priest or the pope with the upside-down cross, satanic. The Bohemian Grove, where they have all our politicians and leading CEOs and elites of the world meet. You can look up all this up on the internet. And have a burning fire, as you can see, and throw a baby, into the fire. They call it an effigy. And then they dress in long robes, and they bring in gay men and have sexual orgies. Again, a satanic ritual. Look this up. So getting back to the book, with these themes in mind, and wondering why the craziness is going on in the world, as if somebody's preparing for something devastating. FEMA coffins, look it up, F-E-M-A, FEMA. And they've got stacked up. You can fit 3 people in those plastic coffins. You can go look at the pictures on the internet. And then FEMA camps all over the United States, and I suspect all over the world. People dying all over the Middle East. The Ukraine right now, they're probably, if you go on the internet, you can find out that they're killing all the opposition, and in secret they're doing a purge like they did during the Russian Revolution. So this is a lot of stuff I'm talking about just to try to get to start this book. Because apparently the people who are in charge of our world worship some kind of god, Luciferian, and it involves, in my opinion and from my research, UFO and alien sightings that went off the chart after the United States exploded the 2 nuclear bombs in Japan. And all of a sudden, the UFO sightings and interaction went right off the chart. Peaked. U.S. Air Force, President of the United States back then, everybody was up in arms and freaking out, and they had to keep it all from the people. So what's going on? So let's start this book, and hopefully I can do something to, present it in a way that it's coherent and makes sense. As you know, when I read these books, I put tabs. So I'm not going to read all the book. So let's just start out with a topic here and see how it goes. The ancients, however, page 34, were aware of a grand cosmic cycle. They knew it repeated itself on a vast scale and used it to track long periods of time. They believed this long cycle had seasons, highlighted at its extremes with a golden age and a dark age. Similar to, but different from the summer and winter of the Earth year. This large cycle consisted of four time periods called by the Greeks the ages of gold, silver, bronze, and iron. Again, similar to, but different from the 4 seasons. Of course, that would be spring, summer, fall, and winter. These were further divided into shorter periods that collectively corresponded with the 12 zodiac constellations, meaning that there were 12 ages within this great cycle, just as there are 12 months within 1 year. Time could be told in this great year by determining where the equinoxes rose relative to the 12 background constellations in the sky. And as a lot of people know, in Egypt, those pyramids align with the certain stars, the stars of Orion, particularly Orion's belt. Thus, they had a way to keep time within the long cycle, and it had a beginning and ending period. Just like the smaller daily and yearly cycles, it was based on the celestial motion. And if you want to look up something interesting, go look up witchcraft holidays, satanic holidays, and pay attention to those dates. I did that. I looked it up once, and there was a couple websites where they were sacrificing people and other sexual perversions on those witchcraft sites. I thank God every day that I finally got those images out of my head. They were so bizarre and gruesome and sick. These are the people ruling our world. That's the point of my videos, is Freemasonry and Satanism, is to try to figure out what is going on. Anyways, they recorded this in their folklore, the cycles of the year, and waxed confusingly about the once golden age. They want a return of the golden age. Right now we're talking about a new world order. They call it a new age. And if we remember, the Freemasons were publishing a magazine called The New Age. We did videos on these. This one was 1927, October. Look, there's one of their lodges here in one of the cities. I think that's probably New Mexico. Here's one for 1934. The Supreme Council, 33 Degrees, Scottish Rite. Another one of their lodges in somebody's downtown city. And as I keep pointing out, the New Age magazine, and all these lodges are all over the country. Virginia, Western Virgin Islands, Utah. There's no place that they're not. They're all over. Scottish Rite dates, different anniversaries and meetings. And another one in 1949. So these Masonic lodges are all over the world. They control the politicians, the money, all in secret. And apparently their religion is the discussion we're having about apparently a lost star that returns every 3,600 years, cycles through our solar system. All right, so here we go. Let's go back here. If we are on the threshold of a higher age, how can we realize its benefits? Well, it seems like if these powers that be, if we're on the threshold of a higher age, why are they economically destroying the world, like Alan Greenspan said before Congress, when he said they were running a program called Creative Economic Destruction? You can look up those keywords, Alan Greenspan. And a congressman during those congressional hearings said to Alan Greenspan, "Won't some people get hurt?" And Alan said, "Yes, some people will suffer." So apparently, again, this golden age, this new world order, this new age, who is the beneficiary and who is going to suffer and die, be eliminated? If you think I'm fooling with you, look up the USA Georgia Guidestones in the state of Georgia, and they say that they want a population of 500 million. So there's almost 7 billion people on the planet, so I guess 6 billion plus have to die so that these people can have their new golden age. Is that the truth? So moving on. Fortunately, as we will soon discuss, the cycle is now on our side. So again, it's moving out of the Dark Ages. The Mayans had a prophecy. Thousands of years ago, they said, that man would gain a new perspective on time by the year 2012. And a lot of things have been happening since 2012 and 2001, 9/11. And the world is changing. Robotics are taking over and there's less need for humans. So again, it makes me wonder about this golden age. John Major Jenkins, Mayan scholar and author of the Mayan Cosmogenesis, 2012, and the Galactic Alignment, interprets it to be a paradigm shift of cosmic proportions. It is possible that a realization of the true import of the precession of the equinox is key to this awakening to a new time. So with that said, let's look at something else here that might be interesting. I am convinced it's going to take several videos to get through this book, because maybe this one video will help us understand a lot. Well, in the past few years, if you've been paying attention, this is Sunday before the Christmas. What is today? The 18th or 19th? And Christmas is this week, coming 4 days, 5 days. 2014. So in 2013, we had something called Comet Ison, I-S-O-N, come through our system, and I documented it and was online and videoed the SOHO, the satellite that monitors the sun, and saw Comet Ison whip around. I have the videos and I posted them. And the year before that, they had Comet Elenin come through our solar system, and everybody was paying attention to that. And Obama was in Colorado, in the underground city at that particular time. And for Comet Ison, they had closed down the government, if you remember. So the people who run our government are aware of these comets that are the harbingers of the big one coming, according to the Hopi prophecy. The blue harbinger and the red harbinger. The blue Kachina and the red Kachina. So what is there something coming soon called Planet X or Nibiru, i.e. called the Lost Star? Like I said, you're going to have to try to pay attention and grasp this, because it's not easy for me to put all this together to make it a coherent sense, which I think I can. So anyways, if you go on the internet and you look up this Planet X and put Nibiru and images, or Planet X or images, or videos on YouTube, you will see that they have these different things, documents where they've been spotting it with telescopes, and they've been documenting it, and apparently this is how the image will look as this planet Nibiru, the sun, carrying some planets, is coming closer to Earth, so they say. And a lot of people these days are putting pictures on the YouTube and the internet that they are photographing the sun with another sun or body behind it, where the sun's rays are shining on it, or it illuminates itself. That's particularly down in the southern hemisphere. And apparently this body has some planets that orbit it. And they say that it is coming. And in the ancient past history, especially with the Mayans and the Hopis and the Peruvians and a lot of places all over the world, we're all familiar with the Great Flood and Noah building an ark and God talking to him. But ancient alien mummy discovered in Egypt. So eons ago, they had these aliens visiting Earth before the last catastrophe, as described in these books that we went over, and Kakor by the Indians down there in western Venezuela, Brazil, Ecuador, in the mountains, the Peruvian mountains. And also described in the mountains by Van Doniken in these pictures down there in Ecuador in the Andes Mountains. And everybody knows about Machu Picchu and the big lines in the mountains you can only see from the air. Here's another ancient building in Europe, and that looks like an alien. And they have the elongated skulls, so apparently maybe these other entities that come to Earth have different shaped heads. A lot of people wrote books. Steve Quayle has the book on giants. You can go look it up. And then, of course, we have the entities, the Egyptian gods. And the people apparently that come along on this other sun and the planets are the Anunnaki. And if you see up here, that sun that's coming right here, the sun up here, in the ancient history, they have that sun with the wings. And these men have wings, so I suspect they could be from outer space. They fly. And again, it looks like this could be a flying craft with a guy sitting in the ship. They use the wings to signify flying ship. The return of the Anunnaki. So apparently out there in Egypt, in the hieroglyphics and the stone tablets, they have different representations of these, like the Rosicrucian tree, tree of life, the occult, the ships. And I don't know about these creatures, but for some reason they have birds' heads. Or it could be a fish head. Because apparently, if we remember doing my videos here, the Sirius mystery, where the dog star, which is off to the star Sirius system in the sky, which is off to the left of Orion's belt. So this dog, if you look at Isis, the wife of Osiris, who had a son Horus, which is represented by the all-seeing eye that's on your dollar bill, and Osiris was represented by the sun. All this stuff is connecting. That's what I'm trying to do. I want to connect the dots. So like I said, you know, you got your all these things. If you go on the internet and check out flying disc, get it? A lost star, a flying disc, a bright sun coming through our system, or aliens flying. You're going to find all these patterns. And here's the kicker. The bloodlines of the Illuminati have the same thing. This is the occult religion. This is what we're trying to get at. Everything connects. And we know they're causing economic destruction, and we know that there's sky spraying in the skies, and they have the HARP systems, and they're building tunnels. And there's this big body supposedly coming through our universe. You see how it's connecting? Like I said, it's going to take several videos to completely cover this conversation. So if you can hang in there, you might appreciate it, and I'd appreciate it if people wake up, because maybe we could avert disaster and stop these politicians who are going to the Bohemian Grove and having rituals where they throw babies in the burning fires and have satanic sexual rituals. And then all these wars in the Ukraine and the Middle East, mass murdering the Arabs every day, and the Palestinians, trying to go back to the same territory where all these symbols are from. Ancient secrets of mankind and the Anunnaki revealed in 14 tablets of Enki. They found the tablets over there in the desert in the Middle East. Notice this guy with the pine cone in his hand. And notice this fish being with the pine cone in his hand. And then this god with the wing. What's up? With that in mind, I looked at one of my Nexus magazines. I'll be referencing these magazines often to get some of the articles over the years, because the more we can find more material on this subject, maybe the better we can understand it. So anyways, they do have a section in this magazine, as you see, The Return of Planet X. In the December 2010, January 2011 issue, Nexus magazine. So I thought I would read about this, and a lot of people have heard of Zecharia Sitchin, who was the one who spent many years interpreting the stones they found. So we have an interview with Zecharia Sitchin by Paola Harris, 2003. So I do like to give credit where credit is due. Scholars have traveled the entire world looking at historical artifacts and documents as evidence that possibly humankind could have been seeded by alien races. You know, if you think about it, if you believe the Bible and God created mankind, then one has to, if they believe that, and I believe that, of course, then one has to believe in God. And if Jesus sits at the right hand of the throne, and anyways, there are angels, cast out angels, demonic beings. So one would have to believe that besides the human race, there would be the entities, i.e. called God, and the fallen angels and the good angels, Michael and Gabriel and Lucifer and Jesus, and all the people in the Bible in that realm, in that reality, would have to be another race of beings, gods. So they're saying here that humankind could have been seeded by alien races. So I guess, in a way, you could call God an alien. So one of the most powerful proponents of the theory is prolific writer, researcher, and historian Zecharia Sitchin. The following interview took place on May 5, 2003, a time when many people had questions about the ransacking of the National Museum of Iraq and the possible return of the planet Nibiru. Now remember, 911, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's, was an inside job, a satanic ritual, a human sacrifice. This is what these people do. They sacrifice people. And the mass murder of a lot of people apparently opens up portals in time and gets favors from the satanic entities on the other side, i.e. maybe God's world, or wherever the demonic beings are that these people do satanic rituals for, like Aleister Crowley, killing children, sexual abuse, and sexual rituals to open up these portals and communicate with these demonic entities. Like Hitler wrote about in his diary, that they abducted a young man in Munich, a gypsy, and sacrificed him on an altar to bring forth an entity to make pregnant a young girl of the cult that laid on the altar next to the sacrificed young man. And apparently the entity materialized, but failed to impregnate the young girl to bring forth the new master race that they're trying to do. So all this stuff is connected. I believe that in our world we have good people and bad people. And so I would think in the celestial cosmic world, I have to reach down on the floor for all these books, as Stan Deyo wrote about the cosmic conspiracy. We went over this book and we should go over it again. Here's Stan and his wife. Fascinating book. Talks about all the occultic symbols on the dollar bill and everything else in our reality. The all-seeing eye there. Looks like a reptilian eye. That would be Horus, and so that could be the reptilian alien beings. Everything connects if you start paying attention. And of course here's another one, The Road to Illuminization. You got your Hermes, Thor, Armon, Osiris, Horus, and Satan. Your Marduk, Baal, Satan, the Elohim, the Yeha Elohim, Jesus the Christ, the Roads to Illuminization, Egyptian Mystery School, the Babylonian Mystery School, the Hebrew Kabbalah School, the Jesuit mystics, the mystics of Rosicrucian. Remember, this series is Freemasonry and Satanism. It's all right here. The anti-Jesuit Illuminati, and the modern Masonic orders, the Great White Brotherhood, the Illuminati. Stan Deyo's book. So my point in these videos, as you are aware, is if we look at enough books and gather enough evidence, we don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to figure this out. So anyways, many people had raised questions about the ransacking of the National Museum of Iraq and possible return of the planet Nibiru, which I think 9/11 and the invasion of Iraq was to get at those things in the National Museum, the stones and other evidence, ancient relics. They were after something. In the Earth Chronicles, Mr. Stitchin tells, based on his interpretation of ancient Sumerian clay tablets, the story of humankind, our origins, how we were created, and details of the overall plan. Lest anybody be beguiled or deceived, consider this. Who's telling the story? Remember, the deceivers deceive. Like the Zionist Jewish folks. They complete or do war through deceptions. They would like to keep themselves out of the news, which they do very well, and have the Christians kill the Muslims, and the Muslims kill the Christians, and then these Zionist, world supremacist, New World Order, New Age folks, not all Jewish people are Zionists. Look up Zionism in images and see for yourself all the Jewish people who are fighting this. These are people who turned from God and turned toward Satan and Lucifer and do the satanic rituals and the witchcraft, the occult, the Hollywood, like the movies Hunger Games, Divergent, mass murder, you know, on TV and movies and games for kids, murdering. Anyways, Stitchin researched these concepts for 30 years traveling the world. So it is my opinion all the chaos and hell and mayhem going on in the Middle East right now has everything to do with the artifacts that are there, and maybe possibly, it seems, the return of some different kind of entities that were on this planet before, and come back every time with the return of this star system. Ben Q is depicted as a bird with a human head. So we all hear about cloning and genetic engineering and bioengineering and sky spraying and global warming and weather control, weather warfare, HARP systems, Monsanto making Frankenstein foods. We certainly have a lot of this stuff that seemingly the insanity is returning. As in the days of Atlantis, it is written that these kinds of insidious and sick things happened. Sinking of Atlantis and the Atlanteans moving to Egypt, and then they were doing genetic engineering, cloning, and creating sexual beast and slave entities and warrior entities. And the ancient Egyptians and the Atlanteans fought over that. And finally, the Atlanteans agreed to cease and desist, according to some of the research that I have read over the years. Anyways, the Sumerians wrote a story of humankind on clay tablets 6,000 years ago in what is now Iraq. So now you know why, in my opinion, why they went after Iraq, and why they're after Syria, and why they're after Iran. If you go look at a map, you will see why they're after the Ukraine. Because apparently a lot of these modern Jewish people, Zionist Jewish peoples, are really Khazarians from Kazakhstan or something like that. And Ukraine is actually the homeland from these people. This is according to some of the videos I watched on YouTube by Text Mars, by the way. Look him up. See his videos. And that's his opinion, that these people who came down from the north, just south of Russia, Khazarians or whatever they're called, and adopted the Jewish religion, by the way, and they were the family that the Rothschilds come from. The bloodline of the Illuminati. That's where all these families came from, and practiced, of course, the Luciferian, satanic, Ra, Osiris, Isis, that they now say is the enemy of the United States and is going to attack the United States. ISIS, the wife of Osiris, and the mother of Horus, represented by the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill. Which, by the way, one of the fascinating magnetic stone artifacts discovered in the jungles of Ecuador has a mysterious glowing eye. We saw this in Van Doniken's book, The Gold of the Gods, and that looks like the thing on the dollar bill, doesn't it? And down there would be the star system Pleiades, and there would be some ancient writing. This is on the bottom of the stone. They just put it on the face here for this particular picture. But if you turn the stone over, these would be on the bottom. So that was their writing, and that looks like the Pleiades system. So, you know, you got to wonder, is some planet coming toward the Earth? Some dwarf brown star that doesn't glow like the sun, and when it gets close to Earth, will there be an electrical discharge and some kind of chaos and devastation on Earth? Well, let's read more from Zachariah Stitchin's stuff here. They knew that the sun is the center of the planetary system, and they knew of planets that we have just discovered in the last 150 years, including Pluto in 1930. So the Sumerian tablets had all this stuff documented. The key to the mystery lies in a planet that once orbited between Mars and Jupiter. So you got Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, and Jupiter in that sequence. And Jupiter is huge. But apparently, between Jupiter and Mars, there was a planet that got destroyed, and then now it's a belt of rocks. But which does not exist today. In its place lies the asteroid belt. The Sumerians called this planet Nibiru, and it is represented in ancient writings and art. This invader planet has a 3,600-year orbit, elliptical retrograde orbit around our sun, and it may soon be returning our way, according to Zachariah Stitchin. All right, creation called Enuma Elish, which was written on 7 clay tablets of the solar system and planets, and the 7th glorifies the Creator of the solar system and planets, and the 7th glorifies the Creator. Much like Genesis in the Bible, the creation of the 7-day week. According to these ancient texts, humanity was genetically created by the Anunnaki, those who from heaven to earth came. 50 of them splashed down in the Persian Gulf 432,000 years ago, and genetically engineered a race to mine gold for them in southeastern Africa. This is the story they would have you believe. All right, let's look at some more pictures here about ancient times. I think that's down there in South America. You can only see, these things are huge, huge. You can see them from the sky. Go on the internet, look this up. Where I found these pictures was www.messagetoeagle.com. Go there and look at that site. Let's give credit where credit's due. You can see the link right here. I found these pictures, some of them. Beings descended from the sky in flying vessels. These are some of the artifacts. Ancient cave in the Bizoon Mountains. Thousands and thousands of years ago, they made these awesome caves. You could go inside, drawings, artifacts, huge facilities, stuff they probably couldn't do today, except with that Rand Corporation tunnel machine they have that we looked at in the tunnel making book. And a lot of this occultic things, like the Vatican Church has these big labyrinths on the floor. That's all occultic magic. It's supposed to cause some kind of energy thing. Maybe if you walk the lines exactly to the center, and then you stand in the center, you will have psychic abilities. And that's a lot of that's described in dowsing, you know, finding water with sticks. And if you read some of those books, you'll learn a lot about labyrinths and how do they do that to increase the energy to the pineal gland in the middle of your head, which is represented by the pine cone, by the way. Which we noticed that these aliens apparently knew that. They have the pine cone in their drawings. Here we go. They knew that, how the pineal gland works. See the pine cone in his hand? And if you go to the Vatican and go look up the Vatican pictures, see the pine cone in his hand? Look at the fish head. Would that be the beings from Sirius star system? But anyways, if you go to the Vatican, you will notice there's a gigantic pine cone in the front courtyard. What's with that? So they have strong connections to the Knights Templar. So it says here, the Jesuits. So I guess the curious question is there this separate solar system? See, here's our solar system. And then you got this other solar system that is moving to intersect ours. And when the two suns come together and they pass, which apparently they do every 3,600 years, and each of those suns are carrying planets, we just hope and pray any of them do not crash. And apparently that asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, it did crash one time and destroyed a whole planet. People say they're taking pictures now down in the southern hemisphere, and there's the sun rising, and they can see something coming in the background. Go on YouTube and look this up. Telescope, you know, pictures, it seems to look like that. So who were these entities, and is that what this is all about, these people in Egypt? Did they know all this? Are these people descendants of these people? You can see here on one Egyptian tomb here, they got Isis there with the wings. And again, and you see these everywhere. Is that the flying disc coming? Nibiru? This is all Egyptian. So it makes you wonder, what do these people who are running all the world's corporations, using the sun and other symbols, witchcraft, Disney World, the Vatican, the Bohemian Grove? Here's one called a spell book. So what do they know about symbols? So I thought I'd take a break from my video and show you the sky here in the mountains of North Carolina. The sky spraying lines you can see. There's no mistaking it. So I believe it has everything to do with these malevolent Illuminati, Zionism, the Air Force. Who is paying for and why are they spraying our skies with all these chemicals that you can see? You can see all the straight lines. About 8 miles north of Asheville, North Carolina, in the mountains. So why are they dumping all these chemicals in the sky? What does it have to do with the possible return of the planet Nibiru, or a polar shift, or whatever, the World War III looming, the Ukraine, the Middle East? They've been spraying us for quite a few years. So I just thought I'd bring this to your attention and go back to the book, The Lost Star. What does the sky spraying have to do with it? Obviously something. Rick Marico reporting. Alright. I was looking out my window and noticed all this sky spraying, and I believe everything is connected. They're not spraying us for our health. And do they really believe that Nibiru is coming through our system? And have they known it for 10 or 20 years? 30 years, 40 years since they started building these underground facilities that you can drive into? You can just drive right off the highway and drive right down into the underground facility. Tractor trailer drivers have reported going there. You can go on YouTube. They're building all these underground facilities with these big drills. So, I can't help but put two and two together. We went over this book on some of my previous videos, and we'll probably visit it again and again. So anyways, Nibiru near Earth orbit. These are just, I went on Nibiru images and found a lot of these. So, I'm trying to find an explanation for everything. So, why are they sky spraying? Does it have something to do with this? So anyways, apparently when this other sun and planet comes close to our planet, they take a lot of resources from Earth, and in particular gold. And they needed the gold because apparently their atmosphere on the planet they live on that travels with this sun, I guess, or the sun is back here, name is called Nemesis, and this is the planet. But apparently their atmosphere was weak, failing, destroyed, and so they put gold particles in their atmosphere to shield them. So they, apparently the story goes, they created human beings by taking some of their DNA and animal DNA on planet Earth to make slaves to dig for gold in Africa and other places. And again, do I believe all this? Not necessarily, but it is the story being told. And we have to remember, the Luciferians, the people go to the Bohemian Grove, the Zionist people, they do deceive. They do war through deception. Is the sky spraying a war against the planetary beings, us humans? Anyways, to create humans, this is Zachariah Stitchin's work I'm continuing on in Nexus magazine, page 62. And you can go to Nexus online on the internet. They make these magazines in Australia. I think for like 50 bucks or something, you can get a disc with all the magazines since they've been publishing magazines. There's a lot of cool articles. I've been reading these for years. Project Censored, top 25 stories that they don't want people to know that they censor. And disappearing bees. Why are the bees disappearing? The power of collective meditation. Mysteries of our moon. Nexus magazine. Return to Planet X. So, to create humans, they did some serious genetic manipulation on an already existing humanoid species. They left behind symbols found in ancient cultures, such as the winged disc. So it makes you wonder, is that the religion of all these banksters and Rothschilds and Rockefeller, the winged disc? This is the winged double-headed eagle, which the double-headed eagle is the symbol for Russia, by the way. Here's the original Rothschild's house in Germany that started the first Bank of Germany, which then acquired the Bank of England and then acquired the Federal Reserve of the United States. They control our bank and our world, and this is their religion. Look at the skull. The sun and the moon. Just saying. They left behind symbols found in ancient cultures such as the winged disc, evidence of nuclear destruction. Mission control for their flying craft was in what is now Israel, an area that was as significant to them as it is now. So they're returning. Have they sent their emissaries? And have they been preparing to retake over the Middle East area and rule the earth again? And eliminate unwanted people, useless food eaters? And what better way than with the sky spraying? And they have been doing some weird things to the sky with the HARP systems that are all over the world. These transmitters, paid for with our tax dollars, that could possibly be used to decimate the populations on Earth. Then they say there's global warming, but they know for the past 400,000 years there have been regular cycles of temperature changes, as you can see in this graph. Here's 400 years. To see the cycles, they do ice core samples to find out what the temperature was over the years. Here's one of the cores of ice that they took out. And the different colors tell them the different periods when it was warm and a lot of leaves and stuff grew, and then as it died before winter, blew in the breeze. So you can tell when you have a good winter and a good summer or a poor one, and they've been doing this in different places around the world. But they would like to tell you this. Make you have fear so they can go ahead and control us and do things that are probably devastating to our society and get us to go along because of the fear they give us. When all along, maybe they know there's something coming through the system. Just saying, I can go on the internet and find all this. Even one of the banknotes over there in France. There's the solar system. And then they got this planetary thing like Planet X coming through. Look at that. They put it on a banknote. This is our solar system. Earth and all that. Jupiter. And here's this other thing coming through. What's up? Let's get back to Zachariah Stitchin's stuff here. Anyways, Polara Harris asked the question, what is the significance of the destruction of the thousands of artifacts in the National Museum of Baghdad? Zachariah Stitchin says, while the subject of the fate of the archaeological objects in the museum should be of concern to everyone interested in the preservation of art, culture, and history, the matter is, of course, of special interest to me and my worldwide readers because my writings, beginning with the 12th planet, that's one of his books, are profoundly based on the archaeological evidence from the ancient Mesopotamian, beginning with the Sumerian civilization, continuing with the Akkadian, Babylonian, and Assyrian, and encompassing the other adjoining civilization that followed. And I'm going to add, i.e. the Middle East. So apparently this thing is coming back here to Earth. And I guess before the big beast gets here, he wants to have his territory recaptured and get rid of the unwanted peoples. Just saying, seems like it. The National Museum in Iraq in Baghdad was a major depository of such artifacts. Now you know why possibly George Bush's daddy and George Bush later, when he was president, had to take down Iraq and a lot of the other countries in the area. And it was in the news. Of course, they did sack the museums and they did get all these artifacts. What were they looking for? What did they want to know? Who was telling them what to do what? You know, they do use remote viewing, as we've discussed in several books, with Tim Rifat and David Morehouse and other people, and even the police departments and park rangers using psychics to find lost peoples and criminals. The science exists. What do they know that's coming? What are they preparing for? Why are they sky spraying us? Why are they building tunnels? Why do they have HARP systems? Why is Alan Greenspan in Congress causing economic destruction? Why all the aircraft carriers and nuclear subs and weapons of war increasing in the news all the time? Do these beings that are coming, do they want a lot of war? Are they coming? So anyways, back to Zechariah Stitchin. So, first, the loss is not total. Second, it is now clear that of the reported 170,000 items in the Baghdad Museum, do you think they wanted them? Only 29 important artifacts were missing. Huh. Alright, Harris says, could there be a secret connection between this war and antiquity? Zechariah, I'm not reading all of it, just my highlighted stuff here, so go get the magazine. The first is that of hallowed and sacred ground. So, if these people are coming, is the Middle East their hallowed and sacred ground? What's all this have to do with the Bible? The end times. Armageddon. Everything's connected, I believe, as I keep saying. Do I have to go outside and video more sky spraying for people to believe me? Or can you just walk outside your own house? Push pause right now. Go outside. See if they're spraying you. Take a picture. Send it to me. Thank you. Anyways, if you travel in the lands of the Bible, you realize that a mosque is built exactly where the Byzantine church had stood. And that it was built where there had been a synagogue. And that too was built exactly there because the place was revered in earlier times. There are biblical prophecies about the fall of Babylon as part of the divine plan. As an example, in the 6th century BC, or whether these are eternal prophecies applicable again and again where the circumstances and the wheel of time apply. I have repeatedly stated that the past is the future because the Anunnaki, the people and the civilizations they bequeath to humankind, are subject to a grand historical cycle. That's what we're going to read about in this book. Let's look at a few more pictures. This is one theory of the orbit of Nibiru, star system Nemesis, and the other planets. Here's one artist rendition of it. Apparently, is this Nibiru Planet X? This is a super zoomed image, 140x+. This is a picture of an object that changes. See other images for the fluctuations of its appearance. Please note that all the specks that appear to be stars are most likely radiation specks on my camera. So apparently they think something is entering our system. You can see there's Nibiru. And if you notice that the sun is about 90-something% of the mass of everything in our solar system. It's quite huge. Here's something rising before the sun rises. You can see the sun down here rising. And then there's some kind of sun up there already rising. Could it be an object behind the sun coming this way? "2012, it's happening. This thing is coming," they're saying. A lot of people smarter than me have done a lot of work. Notice the symbol up here is the German swastika. Is everything we know about history, all the stuff that's been going on in preparation for this, the age of Aquarius, the ancient researchers finding the clay tablets, did they find out something they don't want the rest of us to know? Look on her waist there, the wings and all the other symbols with the wings. Makes me wonder. Look at that. The wing disc. Is something coming? Going to fly through our solar system and perturb planet Earth, cause possibly a polar shift, and all the things said in the Bible, fire and brimstone from the sky, upheavals like mountains and everything, and great floods. Are people, if you go on the internet and check it out, are people really photographing it? See this light sun above the sun? Is something coming? And if you go on some of the internet satellite telescopes they have, for some reason, I looked into this last year, they're blocking out something that's coming. You go to those coordinates and you can't see it. They've blocked it out. That raises a suspicion. Some people have photographed it. There apparently is that Nemesis star and Nibiru and the other planets that are orbiting it coming our way. So they say. Let's go back to Zechariah and then try to end this video. Like I said, I think I could do 3 or 4 videos trying to get through this book, which we haven't even really started. But we're building a foundation, so when we read from this book, we get it. All right. The use of nuclear weapons in 2024 BC. It's 2024 years before Christ, and this is 2014, so that's 4,035, 8 years ago. Over 4,000 years ago. First of all, the significance, because it relates to the more general and bothering question, why are there wars on Earth now? I raise the question, is man born a warrior, or did someone teach us to make war? The answer is the latter. Someone's making, deceiving, causing war on planet Earth, and us bumbling other citizens that are good, we follow our leaders and believe their lies when they fabricate the events to cause the war and say some enemy blew up a ship when it didn't, like the U.S. battleship Liberty that was bombed to smithereens by the Israelis. So we would think that Egypt did it, so we would go to war with Egypt when we were being friendly with Egypt. And the Israelis wanted to nip that in the bud. War through deception. Before the wars of man, there were the wars of the gods. It was during the conflict between Horus and Seth. Horus is the eye on the dollar bill. According to the unambiguous Egyptian text, that humans were given arms and enlisted to fight on the side of Horus that time. So they wanted you to fight on the side of Horus. They created an enemy. You know, in the Bible, they say that when God put Satan on earth, this is in the Rosicrucian material, he created Eve so that Satan would have a companion. Well, Satan had sex with Eve and created a son named Cain. This is in the Bible. This is in the Rosicrucian material. Well, anyways, Satan, the devil, that devil of a dude, left, abandoned his wife, Eve, with the son Cain. And so God, according to the story in the Rosicrucian material, felt sad for Eve, so he created Adam. And then Adam and Eve had a son named Abel. And as the biblical story goes, Cain slew Abel, the first murder. And then Adam and Eve had another son called Seth. So they mentioned that here during the conflict between Horus and Seth. So that could have been Cain being represented by Horus wanting to kill the other son of Adam and Eve. According to the unambiguous Egyptian text, that humans were given arms and enlisted to fight on the side of Horus. So the people are conned into fighting on the side of Lucifer, Satan. It's like now with the decadent New Age, there is no sin, secular world they're trying to create, the New Age, the New World Order. Everybody's joining the Luciferian New One World religion that apparently even the new Pope, the Jesuit Pope, Francis, has joined and said so and contacted the other churches all over the world and said, we need to unite because there's no reason for us to be apart anymore. What does he mean, anymore? Do they know stuff that you're learning right now that you don't know? Have they made decisions? Are they following this entities that are possibly coming? And so it was that in the conflict between the two clans of the Anunnaki, nuclear weapons were used to wipe out the spaceport in the cyanide. An event reflected in the Bible tale of Sodom and Gomorrah. The so-called War of the Kings in Genesis chapter 14, the nuclear cloud from the explosion in the cyanide was carried by the winds eastward towards Mesopotamia. No wonder everybody died and they found all those stone tablets and empty castles. The toxic nuclear cloud killed everybody, apparently, according to this. And numerous lamentation texts described how the evil wind, the nuclear cloud, killed all life in summer. Thus there was no actual explosion in summer. The cities and buildings remained intact. People, animals, and plants died. Can you see that happening now? The threat of World War III. I mean, they're really pushing the button on this. Even the Anunnaki opposed to Marduk, the instigator of war, considered that to be a manifestation of destiny and accepted Marduk's supremacy. Well, I guess you can see we got a long ways to go with this conversation. Thank you for watching my videos. All these books that I have read and have been reviewing, I'm hoping to gel together to one large, coherent picture of reality. Instead of the craziness and unanswered questions, maybe we can put together the answers. Thank you, and may God help us, because it certainly seems like we're going to need some help.